One of the major issues in the United States throughout the late 1800s and early 1900s was the issue of prohibition of alcohol. The 18th Amendment, prohibiting the sale or production of any alcoholic beverages, came into effect on January 17, 1920. However, many people still found the prohibition of alcohol to be a very bad idea. Michigan and its decent population size agreed. Michigan was one of the most important states when it came to repealing prohibition of alcohol in the United States. But why? Why Michigan? And also, why repeal prohibition in the first place? First, let's start with a little bit of background. On January 17, 1920, the 18th Amendment was passed with overwhelming support since the temperance movement was successful in making Americans believe that drinking was a moral wrong and it shouldn't be done. This is surprising since drinking and consuming alcohol was prominent in American history as early as the Declaration itself, and definitely older. That, in addition to the fact that water was, put simply, not safe enough to drink. Filtering was not nearly the same as it is today, not even close. So drinking alcohol was really the only thing that many people in the 19th and early 20th centuries could do. Professor Mark H. Moore writes about the effects from prohibition better than I ever could. So here's a snippet from his writing that I found on the internet. Alcohol consumption declined dramatically during prohibition. Cirrhosis death rates for men were 29.5 per 100,000 in 1911 and 10.7 in 1929. Admissions to state mental hospitals for alcoholic psychosis declined from 10.1 per 100,000 in 1919 to 4.7 in 1928. Arrests for public drunkenness and disorderly conduct declined 50% between 1916 and 1922. For the population as a whole, the best estimates are that consumption of alcohol declined by 30% to 50%. Even though prohibition had been enforced so strictly by the American government, Americans weren't about to give up drinking alcohol just yet. Many Americans would produce fake alcohol called moonshine and then selling it to other people throughout the 1920s to make a quick buck. Many producers of moonshine would be caught by police, but not all were. Despite the very clear decline in American men being drunk or spending money on beers, instead spending it on their families, prohibition was clearly failing since many Americans would drink anything with the word beer anywhere near the name. Opposition to prohibition was growing rapidly. The start of the Great Depression in 1929, meaning most men were put out of work with little to no disposable money, meant that opposition to prohibition could only grow. Franklin Roosevelt's Democratic campaign for president in 1932 included repealing prohibition. Following the Democratic victory in a landslide against incumbent President Herbert Hoover on March 22, 1933, Roosevelt's 18th day in office, he signed the Cullen-Harrison Act, authorizing the sale of 3.2% beer and alcohol, although that is not enough to be considered intoxicating. The 21st Amendment, which would repeal the 18th, was first proposed on February 20th, 1933, and quickly acted upon by the states. The state of Michigan, known for its high concentration of German and Irish immigrants, who, you know, not to stereotype, I have an Irish friend. I promise it's not racist. I went to Ireland last year. I loved it. They like to drink quite a bit. They became the very first state to say enough is enough and voted for the 21st Amendment, repealing prohibition on April 10th, 1933, with only one contrarian. The amendment was ratified by December 5th, with the unanimous vote from Utah officially repealing prohibition. With Michigan's first ratification coming in April, it set the ball in motion for the next 35 states to ratify the amendment. Also, as a side note, I'd like to mention that I was not surprised to find out Wisconsin ratified this amendment second to Michigan on April 25th. Stick around for next time, where I go over how Minnesota, quite possibly the least southern state in the Union, caused quite a stir in the prelude to the Civil War.